button. As people come on, please, when you're coming on, hit the mute button, mute yourself, and if you have your camera, make sure your camera is turned off. We don't want to see what you're doing when you think no one's looking. You just avoid those embarrassing little moments. We are going to be putting this up on YouTube later on for a callback. My group is really growing really fast here. So this is Frank. I'm going to be your host today. We have Michelle on the line. Michelle, are you with us?
I am, yes. I'm just muted. Hi, how are you?
Okay. Do you have anything that you wanted to start off with before we get into the program?
No, nothing.
Okay. We had a few questions, and I tried to answer them before the call, but it looks like we're growing really, really fast on this call. I don't know what I did, but I hope I do it again next week. The call is really growing. Might even max itself out. Okay. Well, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. One of the biggest things that makes us unique and separate from everybody else is we have unique programs. We have unique programs that are even unique to finance agents, being Easy Financial Group LLC, which is the member office that you're with right now, has something crazy just happened. I don't have a clue what it was. Don't know what just happened. Michelle, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And I'm not sharing my screen just yet, so I don't know what just happened.
You are.
Something crazy happened, and I don't know what it is. All right. If you could be, Michelle, if you could be watching the board, I don't know if you can mute people out or not.
No, I can't mute anybody.
Okay. All right. That's okay. I've got everyone muted out for now. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Easy Financial Group is a member office. You could consider that as a branch office like a bank. And so we're a branch of a bank. The main company, of course, is Finance Agents. They have a number of programs and expanding their programs all the time. We have those programs, and we have many more programs. We have the 100% CLTV program, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And we have the 125% buy, fix, and flip program that we've been talking about for the last month or so. Those kind of programs make us unique and different from everybody else in the industry. So we are giving people a decided advantage by having programs that nobody else has. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share with you my screen, and if I can exactly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share this screen. Yes. And share. Okay, Michelle, can you see what is on my screen right now?
Yes, I can.
Who is it?
It's Tim.
Okay, great. All right, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the 100% CLTV. That is a product that is on fire right now. We're going to tell you how you can make a very generous commission using the 100% CLTV. And we're going to show you, if you stay with us till the end of this presentation, how you can actually make double commission. And maybe it's the double commission that caused it, but we've got a lot of people on the line today. We might even max out before the presentation is finished. So without further ado, I'm going to go.
Everyone's looking for 100% financing on real estate purchases, but who actually qualifies for it? In this video, we'll show you the 5 things that every buyer needs in order to get this ultra-popular type of financing and where to get it. Guess what? Spoiler alert, you don't need good credit, income, or experience. If you don't need that, What do you need? All right, let's do this. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Finance Agents Live. This is episode number 78, where we dive into 100% financing. And I am joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, David Krantz, 32 years experience, created our CRE lending program, so knows everything about the business, has funded personally over $500 million and growing every year. Welcome to the show, David.
Morning. Hello. Good afternoon, I should say, everybody.
All right. Good.
Rainy South. Where are we at?
It's
Southern California.
It's raining in SoCal, and it's freezing everywhere else in the U.S., but we're hoping to heat it up a little bit by talking about 100% financing, something that's very popular. Now, most of the time, when people talk about doing 100% financing on real estate purchases, what do they mean? They don't actually mean loans. Let me just be clear, we're talking about doing loans today, but most of the time they're talking about what?
They're talking about buying a property with none of their own money down. They're typically talking about us coming in for a first mortgage at a certain loan to value and having a seller do a carryback behind our first mortgage, equaling to 100% of the purchase price, or in the industry standard called it 100% combined loan to value, or CLTV.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what we're doing today. But what I was asking is, normally when you talk to someone about 100% financing, what they're doing is they're selling you a process to go to somebody who's selling a house and convincing them to finance the property for you. There's courses out there. You can spend $20,000 buying these courses for how to go out and do that on a regular basis. Most of the time, you see someone talking about 100% financing, it's that. So that's not what we're doing. We're doing more what David was talking about, and we're going to dig into the details on who qualifies and how we can do that. Now, again, what is this? Specifically, we are talking about how to finance the purchase of real estate with, and feel free to cringe on any of these things here, no money down, horrible credit, no income, and no experience. Do you want to stop me on any of those?
Let's go.
Okay, all right. Now, what this is not, why don't you tell them what we're not going to talk about today?
These are private money loans, so we don't do any fix and flipping on this type of product. 30-year fixed loans, we don't do those on this type of product. We don't do land on this type of product. Any seller will tell you what they think their property really is valued at. But it's up to you and the appraiser to determine really what the true value is.
And let me also say what this is not. This is not somewhere you can come lie to us about the value of the property in order to try to make something happen. We understand how to look at the real value of the property. I was just dealing with something yesterday. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's what it is and what it is not. So do you know people who want 100% financing? They want to be able to go buy a house with no money down. Have you ever heard of somebody asking for that,
All
David?
the time.
All the time. All right, today we will show you how you can refer people to us for this ultra popular type of financing and get paid a lot of money, right? We've had people get paid
A lot of money.
What's the biggest commission you paid on 100% financing that you know of?
Paid out about $40,000 on $1.5 million loan.
You're right, yeah. So up to $40,000. I could think of another one that was $20,000. Obviously depends on the size of the loan. But besides just telling you how to get paid doing this kind of stuff, if you think, yeah, I know people are going to want that, stick to the end of the video and I'll show you how you can get double the normal commission. The normal commission is already really big, obviously what you just heard. You can get double that on the first person you refer to us for this type of financing. So, exciting. I hope you're excited. Let's get into it. So, you started talking about this before. What the heck is CLTV? It's 100% financing, but it's 100% CLTV. What does that mean?
It means your combined loan to value. Everybody understands what loan to value is. I have to make that assumption. What we do is combined loan to value. Can we go back to that last slide if you don't mind? Thanks. So what we do, 100%.
This, I'm basically saying 100% CLTV loan is 100% financing. So just to be clear what we're talking about. And the CLTV stands for?
Combined loan to value. So that's where you take the first and the second or the third mortgage, you add up all the liens on the property, you divide it into the value of the property, and that becomes your combined loan to value.
So normally when you go apply for a loan from a bank, they're going to say, great, this property is worth $1 million. We'll give you a loan for whatever their loan to value is. Let's say, I don't know, let's say it's a traditional lender, they lend up to 75%. We'll give you a loan for $750,000. Where's your $250,000 bucks? We want you to put that down. You say, I don't have that. They say, get out of here. They don't really care what you have to say out of that. We are different. We will work with you, but it's in a specific scenario where we'll allow somebody else to do that second loan, and to be really extreme, we will allow the seller to do that second loan. So really, there's no other financing at all. So how does that break out between what we do and what the seller typically carries?
What we do is this. So for example, let's say we have one of our friends out there that's bringing a property to you and it's $1 million purchase price, and the value is $1 million. We will lend $600,000 in a first mortgage position, giving the buyer or the seller the cash down, cash out, and we'll require the seller to carry the other 40% or $400,000 down behind us. Therefore, your buyer or borrower is coming in with no money down. We're financing 100% of it. Between us being the first mortgage and the seller doing a second carryback, your buyer gets into that property with no money down.
And that's what we mean by 100% financing. We'll give a loan, the seller can carry the rest. You don't have to come in with any money down. In fact, we've even had sellers pay for the closing costs in order to get the thing funded. So it is true 100% financing with those parameters. Now, how do you find people that want this kind of financing? They're pretty much around all the time. How do you actually make it happen? We'll go more into that in a bit. But first, let's talk about the 5 things that every borrower needs in order to be able to actually qualify for and get this kind of financing. And again, it's not credit. You don't have to have good credit. You don't have to have lots of income. You don't have to have lots of real estate experience like some programs require. And normally you think, heck, if you don't need those, what do you need? Well, let's get into it and talk about the 5 things. So what's the very first thing that somebody needs in order to be able to get this kind of financing? This is probably the single most important item.
We need good property. It has to be a decent property, not under construction, not a beached well, and it must be in an active local market.
And by beached well, we mean that some really big random property in the middle of a bunch of, let's say a $4 million house surrounded by $200,000 houses. That is something that really
a white elephant,
stands out.
beached well.
White elephant, right? Yeah, something that is really difficult to substantiate the value of the property. So the value of the property is the single most important thing, because that is what we're doing our loan based on. So let's do a quick overview, not in detail, but a quick overview on the underwriting that we look at in order to qualify somebody for a loan.
Our loan to values will range anywhere between 50 to 60%. We'll do loans for anywhere from 12 months to maybe 18 months on this program. Our loan amounts are between $100,000 to $3 million. We need a clean title, obviously, before we can fund the deal. That means make sure that we're the first mortgage position on the property. We do require an appraisal. We can give you an answer usually the same day, no longer than 24 hours for an approval, and we can close deals as long as we have the clean title and appraisal 7 days or less.
Okay, great. So that's a quick overview. Obviously, we can go into a lot more detail, but this works for any type of property. 100% financing is available for any type of property. We're talking single-family residence, as long as it's an investment, you don't live there, multifamily, retail centers, office, warehouse, industrial, mixed use. The only thing that it doesn't include is like raw land or construction projects.
Right.
Okay, so that's the first thing that you need is a good property. It needs to be, here's the deal, if you come to us for a loan normally, or you come to us for 100% CLTV financing, then the property needs to be a little bit better than the normal loan. Because we're going to look a little more closely at it because we know you're coming in with no cash. So the property needs to be even better than normal. All right, so what's the next thing that somebody needs in order to make this happen?
Really, like the screen says, a motivated buyer. Somebody that sees a long-term value in the property, understands the cost going in, can convince the seller he's worth the risk, and has a plan for paying it successfully. So the motivated buyer really needs to fall under these 4 categories, and maybe the motivated buyer thinks his house is worth more money or his real estate's worth more than what it actually is today. As Tim and I discussed earlier, it's a good way for a motivated buyer to sell his property for a little bit more money as well too.
Right, so this kind of buyer needs to have some sales in him, needs to be able to work with the seller in order to make sure the seller is comfortable. That's kind of one of the keys that really needs to happen. Needs to go out and make things happen on their own, not like a normal buyer, just plunk down cash and they'll get the property. Need a motivated buyer. Fortunately, there's a lot of these guys out there, and the good news is when you find one who realizes, wow, I can get into properties, investment properties, without putting down any cash, They may have $100,000 ready to invest in a property. Now they could buy 3 when before they could only buy 1. So finding a motivated buyer isn't hard, and once you find one, you can help them multiple times. So it's a great opportunity. So what's the next thing you need? You need a great property, or good to great property. You need a motivated buyer. What's the next thing you need?
Cooperative seller.
Cooperative seller. Is that hard? I mean,
I don't think so.
People like to sell stuff,
People
right?
like to sell stuff. And we have a way for them to get a lot of money now and some of their money in the back end of the deal. And sometimes they'll sell these properties for a little bit more than the appraisal because they're willing to do a seller carryback, and we're okay with that.
Now, obviously, if somebody's selling a property and they got 2 people buying the property from them, one person who's just going to buy the whole thing cash or with a loan and get it all financed, boom, done, and one guy who wants to put down half the money and have the seller carry the rest in a mortgage, clearly the full cash buyer is preferential. So the sellers that generally agree to this usually are ones who maybe had some trouble selling the property. Maybe they believe the property is worth more than the prices they're getting. And so now if they have a buyer who is willing to agree to that price, even if some of it's in a carry, then they'd rather have that than selling the property for less. Maybe they're in a distressed situation, they need to get out right away, and they have a buyer who's willing to at least put down half the money, and that makes them whole. Then that's okay. That's what we're looking for with a cooperative seller. If the seller is not comfortable with doing a loan, it's not going to happen. This is probably the number one thing that kills deals after we worked on them for a little while, is that the seller finds another buyer who's 100% cash, who pays the same price, or they just get cold feet on the loan. Now, we have methods and strategies for how to deal with that and help you resolve that. We're not going to cover them today, but it is something we help you do when you're going through the process. All right, so we've gone through, you need a good property, you need a motivated buyer, you need a cooperative seller. What is the 4th thing that you need in order to get one of these loans?
We got everybody going. We need appraisal and title and loan doc fees.
You need to be able to actually pay for something, right? We have to have these things. Now, you being the buyer or your client doesn't necessarily have to pay for appraisal, title, and loan doc fees themselves. You can have the seller pay for it. That's fine, but it has to be paid for. We're not going to finance those fees for you. Now, luckily, these are reasonable fees. Like, what's an appraisal cost on a single-family?
Single-family, I've seen them anywhere between $400 to $600. Commercial could be as high as $3,500, each, depending on the size of the commercial building.
Okay, all right. So these are reasonable costs. They shouldn't be that big, and it is 100% financing on the purchase. But these are costs that they need to find somebody to pay for. But that guy that we talked about before that had $100,000, who's about to invest in a property, that's enough to cover 10 or 20 purchases if we wanted to do that many. So it gives him a lot more use for his money than coming in and just having to pay 25% down and only buy one property worth $400,000. You got $100,000, and the bank will approve you for 75% financing. You can buy one $400,000 property. Conversely, if you have $10,000 and you're working with us, you could buy $1 million property, literally. And we've done these in the past. So it's a huge difference on what you can purchase. Now, we talked about, okay, let's talk a little bit about the appraisals. What do we look for in the appraisals?
We look to make sure that they're appraised at the proper market value. We don't use what's called ARV, or after repair value. We use today's market value. We don't use the income method, and we don't use the best use method. We use what the value is today and what it appraises for. Every one of our appraisers must be a licensed appraiser and carry E&O insurance as well too, and outside appraisals are reviewed by our own internal appraisal firm.
Now remember, the appraised value of a property is only as good as your ability to actually get that price on the market. So when we look at an appraisal, that's one thing. The other thing is, how likely are we to be able to sell it? And that's why we look for an active local market. If you've got something in Malibu where you've got these amazing values, but nobody's buying, that's the same as being in the worst part of the U.S. If nobody's buying, we can't sell it. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the appraised value and our ability to move it if we have to get rid of it. Because again, somebody's coming in with no money in, they have very little commitment, they may let this thing go. We have to be prepared for that. All right, so we went through great property, motivated buyer, cooperative seller, and appraisal, title, and loan doc fees. What's the last, and I would say the single most unique thing you need in order to be able to do 100% financing on a property?
I would say it would be somebody who evaluates the loans based on the property, not the borrower, and that's who we are, and that's what we do. We are an asset-based lender. We can look at lending to the weakest borrower. As long as our assets there and our loan-to-value is there, we're going to make sure your borrower can get a loan.
There are not a lot of lenders. I mean, I've been saying this for a while. I've been looking around. I haven't seen anybody else actually do this. I'm sure somebody does it, but I don't know anybody who's doing 100% financing for people with bad credit, no income, no real estate experience, no other assets to collateralize. This is, I think, the only program doing this out there. So if you find motivated buyers who can, and you can work with the sellers and you bring us some decent properties, you can get financing you can't get anywhere else. And that's the one thing we really want to get across and make sure you understand.
So listen, I want to finance your 100% CLTV deals. We make it very simple over here. As many of you that have worked with us know, we can give you the approval usually within hours, and we can close these deals in 4 to 7 days in many cases, as long as we have the appraisal and title in. And we're aggressively sitting on a pile of money looking to lend it out.
Okay, great. So we're going to open it up for some questions here in a minute, but while we're waiting for that, let me talk a little bit about what we didn't discuss today, because there's really only so much we can do on these events. What we didn't discuss is, how to make these deals happen. There's a lot of steps to go through, which doesn't make it extra difficult. I mean, the easiest way is just give it to us, but the more active people we work with, there's things that you do in order to make sure that they go through. That includes how to coach the buyer, how to negotiate with the seller to make sure they accept your offer versus other offers that they might be looking at. How to actually do the 100% financing that's not CLTV, because we didn't talk about it at all today, but we talked about the CLTV approach. There are deals where we could finance 100% of the purchase without the seller doing a carry. Not talking about that today. That's something we reserve for the people in our masterclass. So, and that leads to what I'm going to talk about. Again, I mentioned in the beginning, there's a special bonus for everybody who's on today and who's watching this. We didn't discuss the special bonus yet, so we're going to get into that. But to segue into that, we also didn't discuss how much money you could really make. I guess we did. We talked about it a little bit. How much money you could make offering private financing other than this one specific thing. This is probably the single most unique thing we do, but there's a lot of other loans that we do that aren't 100% financing. What are most of the real estate deals that you're seeing these days?
Most real estate deals we're seeing are small commercial deals. We're lending between $300,000 to $800,000, I would say, be our average loan amount. There are small apartment buildings, there are single-family homes. And I know Frank asked the question if we will do 100% financing on single-family homes. The answer is yes.
Oh, yeah.
Provided that it's non-owner occupied and an investment property. And what was your question, Tim? I'm starting to rattle off here. I forgot that.
Just all the different types of lending we do. Today we talked about 100% CLTV, but there's a lot of other types of real estate deals that we do. So if you're working with us, you can make a lot of money on all these things. Most of the deals I see are cash out refis, where somebody needs to get equity out of their property, but nobody else will lend to them because they're in some bad situation. And these are the kind of clients that we love. So to learn about all that stuff I just mentioned that we didn't talk about, and much, much more, you can sign up for our Real Estate Masterclass. And you're going to see this guy on here. He is there for a lot of it. I think he's also highly featured in the blooper reel. Has Rhoda told you about the blooper reel?
I hope not.
Okay, that's an extra special thing you get in there. You get to see some fun bloopers. But in the Real Estate Masterclass, we talk about this kind of financing and all sorts of others, how to make great money offering loans that people can't get anywhere else. The 100% CLTV and financing segments are not yet in the course because the way this works is we keep adding to it. We're going to be adding components forever. So if you sign up for the course, you get to keep adding new things. Every time we come up with something new and better and important, it's available for you to access there. So, and you can earn, $10K or more per deal. Plus, if you sign up today, while you're watching this, you can get double commission on your first deal. That's the special bonus I mentioned at the beginning. You sign up for our masterclass today, you get a heck of a lot of things. You get double commission on your first deal. You get a private session with David Krantz. He's going to be doing one session with everybody after they've gone through the course where he answers their questions. And, it's one thing to hear it, another thing to be able to bounce your questions directly off David, so that's invaluable. You'll be added to a private group where you can communicate with other people that are going through the course, getting their feedback, bounce deal scenarios off them, not just us. You can talk to other people who are being successful with it. Plus, Sign up today, you get a free seat for a friend. So you sign up, you can hand out a seat for your friend. Do it with a friend. We like that better, then we end up doing more deals together. And last but not least, you get a special limited time price, big discount. So if you want to do this and you're on the page that has a button below, just go down and click the button. If you're on our YouTube channel, then the very first thing in the show notes below is a link. Click on that, it takes you to a page where you can sign up for the course and learn much more. How to do 100% financing deals, how to do everything else, and all the special bonuses that I mentioned. So in summary, great way to make money, double commission, private session with David, private group where you can learn from others, one free seat for a friend, and 33% off the normal price. All right, so that's it for all this. Anybody have any questions about anything? We're happy to open it up. Frank did ask a question. We already answered about single-family residences. That works for us. Anything else you have? No, I don't see anything. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up for the day. David, thank you very much.
Thank you guys, everybody. I wish I had more to say. Just stared at the camera and making some funny moves all day, so I hope I didn't make googly eyes at anybody out there.
I hope you did, because then it'll end up in the blooper reel.
I just need another blooper reel. My whole life's been a blooper reel.
All right, excellent. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. We'll see you next week. We look forward to doing a lot of deals together.
Frank, are you there?
Okay, I'm trying to say that we are about to drop off of our 30-minute call. It's about 1:28 right now, and I am having a problem with my microphone. It says that Zoom cannot detect my microphone. Can you hear me, Michelle? I guess you cannot hear me.
No, I can hear you, Frank.
Okay.
Yeah, we hear you, Frank.
All right, guys. Well, we're about to drop off. Anyone who would like to sign up for the master class, I will be sending out an invitation to the master class right after this call, and you can go ahead and sign up for that master class if you like. And if you're working with Easy Financial Group LLC, we will teach you all of the tricks that Tim was talking about, that you can make multiple incomes, multiple commissions on a single sale. So with that, I think I only have like 1 or 2 minutes left. Are there any questions that we need answered real quick? Michelle, you have anything to say before we go?
Yeah, I just want to let all the new people know that are on the call. We only do loans for businesses and people that are in the United States. We've had a few inputted that are in another country and we can't do them.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well, with that, as I said, I'm going to send this out, and I didn't want to have it end abruptly on everyone, but I only have 30 minutes. And it's coming right up on the time. So thank you all for your attendance. And I will be sending out a replay to everyone who was on this call. Oops, I got one in the chat. And the chat is call you in a few. Okay.
It's me. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, well, thank you very much. God bless everyone. And we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye, Frank.